To the railroad tracks and follow them to the station of my enemies. A cobalt-toothed man pitches pennies at my mugshot negative. All over the United States there are toddlers in Iraq. I see why everyone out here got in a big cosmic basket, and why blood agreements mean a lot, and why I get shot back at. I understand the psycho-spiritual refusal to write white history or take the glass freeway. White skin tattooed on my right forearm, ricochet sewage near where I collapsed into a rat-infested manhood. My new existence is living graffiti. In the kitchen with a lot of gun cylinders to hack up. House of God in part, no cops in part, my body brings down to Christmas. The new bullets pray over blankets made from the old bullets, pray over the 28th hour's next beauty mark, extrajudicial Confederate statue restoration, the waistband before the next protest post. And by the way, time is not an illusion, Your Honor. I will save your deaths for last. You're witty, Your Honor. You're moving money again, Your Honor. It's only running one thing. Non-white cops and prison guard shadows reminded me of spoiled milk floating on an oil spill, a neighborhood making a lot of fuss over its demise in New Lake for a Black Panther party. Malcolm X's ballroom jacket slung over my son's shoulder, the figment of village, a new news to a new white preacher, all in an abstract painting of a president. Bought slavery some time, didn't it? The tangent screeches of military bolts and election Tuesday cars, a cold-blooded study in leg irons, proof that some white people have actually fondled nooses, that sundown couples made their vows of love over opaque piece plastic and boat-action audiences. The Medgar Evers second is definitely my favorite law of science. Fondle news clippings and primitive Methodists, my arm changes imperialisms. Simple policing versus structural frenzies, elementary school script versus even wider white spectrums, artless bleeding, and the challenge of watching civilians think of terrible rituals they have around the corner. They let their elders beg for public mercy. I'm going to go ahead and sharpen these kids' heads in the arrows myself and see how much gravy spills out of family crest modern fans of war. What with their t-shirt poems and t-shirt guilt and me having on the cheapest pair of shoes on the bus, I have no choice but to read the city walls for signs of my life. Societies wander together like hopeful drops of a virus. Citizen testaments bent on offering me a nation of breadwinners to hold me back. Like it's a Brinks, I wrinkle the concrete sometimes like flesh. My Martin Luther King permanence turned away from a podium into the reeds like God is a dangerous twin. Black August to the mountaintop balcony on my bedroom floor. You know they steal you from the earth itself and suspend you in your broken neck from their foolish euphoria. From the loyalty over their grave superstition. Loyalty after their agrarian reform, I returned to my mother completely disrespected. Hey, for peeling the heat off of purgatory, they killed poets like me. Walked me away from my poems, never to be heard from again. In this final industrial complex of bloodlines picked through a sport and spiritual death, or you're definitely at least half-made, police become a pretty word. I'm reading a lynch mob shoestrings like they were tea leaves, teaching you how to write about cities. It's the 25th century in the mirror, people. Tyranny against your chump change, your chump to be mocked even with a gun in your car. Cupid of needlework spelled tune for the proletariat, the relapse ministry. Talented people curled up in a fetal position next to a diamond dime. Just another surface day in the theatrics of tea-house fascism. In a bouquet of surveillance cameras. In the poverty of God. New blue eyes, corpses of water, newly potted presidency. A one big shiny coin if you ask an animated capitalism. Another non-literal voice killing its white freedom. The deification of hyphens. Medicine bread and picture shows. Great protesters in L.A. Guess of our ink. Jock kicking rose in the graveyard. D.C. mink like a stone torn in half. Dependent advances. Despite CIA guideposts. Despite non-African past and futures. A metaphorical but not surreal day in a horn-ridden life. Horn player improvising king. Like a radio prize fight featuring Shango himself, a real hand sweeps the land of racism. May I return to the ground? May I make progress with the gun? On her mother Emmanuel they put on music that evening. A swinging type body language for you to drink with fermented $5 bills. For your body language some applause. My past stomach lining, neither a good thing nor a bad thing like being psychic on the way to a lethal injection. It'll sit you down with Lady Day. Lady Day leading you through surrender their souls to Africa too soon. Poly thought floating in a cup of water, she saved me. Accessing my stomach, accessing the love of the American lynch. Cold sleeves, wooden avalanche into the wrist. Our mother Emmanuel. Avalanche into the sharp keys. Pain. The deal you make with pain. A piano makes sense for them. Laying hands on the world gradually. Addressing the bending necks on the streets of the north. Travelers sailing in pain. Repeating pain in the north, 10 triple figures on that piano if harmony would have me. Putting 100 fights on every direction offered her, Lady Day. Leaning on trees again, recruiting the countryside itself, saying, lay your plan out on this lightning. Make your poems the corner pocket of men. I've greeted the blues itself. America may clean my dead body, but will never include me. There goes the poet, killing without killing. Never mind. Never mind this painting of your language. Now be a meaningful lynching. A crow's passing, good and dead by the afternoon. You know, all street life, to a certain extent, starts fear. And sometimes with a spiritual memory even. Pre-dying soul clap, your father dying even. Maybe I pushed the city too far. My sensitivities to landfill districting and minstrel whistles, white supremacist graffiti on westbound rail guards all over coming reauthored. Reauthored by revolutionary violence that chose its own protagonist, a muted stage of genius, the garbage is growing voices. Condensed Marxism for warrior depressives, underpasses in their pockets because they just might be deities, a decent bid on the panther name, a merciful Marxism. Disquieted home life, a metaphor for relaxing next to a person who is relaxing next to a gun. I stare at my father for a few seconds, then return to my upbringing, return to the souls of Ohio black folk revolution down there pagan. At this point, you know what the clown wants, the respect of the ant, wants to interpret pain only, wants to pull a 38 out of a begging bowl, wants me to hurt my hand on this pen. I'm not tired of these rooms, just tired of the world to give them a relativity. My only change of clothes prosecuted the government finally learned how to write poems, shootouts that briefly align, that make up a parable, or parables like white bodies are paid well. Do white men even have leaders? Are all white people white men? A rap pictures a river. Can almost text the racial divide. Can almost roll a family member's head into the city hall legislative chamber. Knows who in this good book will fly. Man, all I do is practice, Lord. Decided not to talk out of anger ever again. Met my wife at the same time I met new audience members for our paint. We passed each other cigarettes and watched cops win. A city gone uniquely linear, Harlem of the West, do a true universe. I will always remember you in fancy clothes, my wife said, so here I sit, twisting in silk ideation. Rifle made of post-bellum, tartar is made of an honest language. This San Francisco poetry is how God knows it is me whining. Riding among the lesser respected wolves, lesser observed militarization, Dixon's prison bookkeeping. I mean, the California Great Coast are coming. Lynch mob gossip and bourgeois debt collection. I mean, it's tempted to change professions mid-poem. In a Chicago briefing, the white sergeant saying blank slate for all of us after this black organizer is dead. Standard academics toasting $2 wine at the tank parade. Bay of nothing, Lord. Just nuclear cobblestones, gun line athleticism, and the last of the inherited asthma. Children giving white dolls to play with in fear, face expressions borrowed from rich people's shoestrings. I can hear hate and teach hate and call tools by people names and name people dead to themselves. No one getting naturalized except federal agents soon. Carving the equator in the throat soon. I'm sorry to make you relive all this, Lord. All this pre-dime monarchy friends putting up politician posters and snorting the remainder of the pace. Minstrel script shoveling to the walls by their elders. My children sharpening quarters on the city's edge. For these audiences, I project myself into a ghost-like state. For these gangsters, I do the same. Every now and then, take a nervous look east. Sleep becomes Christ. Sleep starts growing a racial identity. Do you ever spiral, Lord? Has the gang age betrayed us? Be patient with my poems, Lord. So much pain is a point of crime. I mean, there has to be if race traders come with it, Lord. Is that my revolver in your hand? You know, better presidents than these have yawned in cages, have called us holy slaves. Fill the school libraries with cop documentaries. Baby, I don't have money for food. Shit. I don't have a present moment at all.